All right, well, thank you everyone for joining our very first, I guess, the government CX meetup. So we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about today, especially from our speakers or our panel. I'll kind of just jump straight into it. We've got a short presentation before we kind of kick it all off, and then we can go from there into our panel. So let's make this full screen. Sweet. All right. So I just want to intro the event and what's going on and how this will all, I guess, run and what we're trying to do at the end of the day. Cool. So the idea about this is to drive more conversations that matter with your customers at the end of the day. It's really about trying to share the knowledge. One thing that we've found as being a partner in a bunch of the councils is you all are awesome at talking to each other, but the opportunity to really have a chance to present stuff like we are doing today is very rare. That you only got those big events that you go to. So making something a bit more casual and informal so that it can be a little bit more, happen a bit more often is sort of the goal. A little bit of housekeeping, so feel free to ask questions. So on the right, I think, of your screen, there's a bit of an interface to do the UI. You can jump in and just ask questions as you go along. If there's any issues, feel free to just type in a question and we can go from there. We do want you to share other insights, so if there are comments and other bits and pieces attached to some of the questions that come through, please feel free to also kind of comment in your own way, and we'll bring some of them into the conversation with the panel. And finally, just the one-on-one, please be respectful to each other, just to make sure that everybody is playing along nicely and we all have some fun. As I said at the start, our goal really is to build a community out of this. So we've kind of been successful in some of the other events we've done. So just as an FYI, I'm Mark from inGenious.AI, so I'm one of the chatbot people that basically a bunch of the councils use. But it's not going to be a sales pitch like this really is. I couldn't care less if any of you buy a bot or anything like that. At the end of the day, it really is just about starting to build the community and sharing the knowledge, because it's kind of interesting when you start to get into this space. It is quite unique given the breadth of services that you all provide. So yeah, the idea is if anybody wants to try and participate and help sort of run and manage this, please feel free to reach out and we can sort of bring you into the loop and go from there. As I mentioned, there's a Q&A section, so I'll do some polls just to try and get some understanding of what you want to do in these events and learn from, and then we can start to bring that into the future events as well. Cool, so a couple of talking points just to kind of set the scene around the chatbot and live chat. One thing that we've sort of found a lot is we really want to make sure that we can let customers be customers. So a lot of the times, businesses put a lot of things in place to basically stop customers reaching out too often or too easily. In our view, that's not really the right way to go. There are, new technologies and stuff that are coming out, so it's really just about enabling that. And the one thing that we've found, and this is kind of the universal sort of truth, is customers simply want to start a conversation. So they just want to jump in and say hello and ask their questions and get their answers, or even come back with positive feedback and other bits and pieces. So the more barriers you put in front of them, the less conversations you can have with your customers. Why is conversation so important? Well, conversation isn't really a new interface. It's actually been, it's been our primary interface for hundreds of thousands of years. So really understanding that it's not so much new technology or anything around like that. It's just how we have those conversations have changed. So it's gone from face to face to things like telephone to SMS and whatnot, and now into these live chat and messaging applications where it's this continual thread. So it's really just about understanding that these conversations, while cool, the technology's changed along the way, the fact that it is just a conversation hasn't really changed over all those channels. It's still the same outcome. And the main goal around that ends up being conversations are still fundamentally human. So there's no real difference around that hundred thousands of years that we've been talking to each other. So we're kind of good at it. Why is conversation so powerful? Well, the main thing around this is that it's all about building trusted relationships. So we can really have that one-to-one conversation, understand things from that point of view. And the goal ends up being that you kind of want to get to that shared understanding. And I'll sort of jump into that quite quickly, because we see this a lot with customers is they try and turn conversations into search. Search is great for exploration, but when you're trying to find an answer, it's sort of the hard way to go, especially when you start to think about it from a conversational point of view. So as a quick example, if I jump into Google and I type in how do I choose a good car, I end up with 9 million results. So there's no way in hell I'm going to look through that many results. So I'll just kind of pick one. But at the end of the day, you're putting all of the research and all of the effort back on the customer to find the answer they're looking for. But if you flip it the other way, in the way that a conversation works, we really want to let the customers be lazy at the end of the day. So they just want their question answered in the same way that they would if they went into one of your branches, I guess, and picked up the phone and had a conversation. They just want their answer. They don't want to have to do all the work that's attached to it. So it's really leaning into that. And then when you do allow customers to be lazy, it ends up being quite successful from that side of things. So it's one thing to kind of consider there is just think about how you can make the path of least resistance, I guess. And the main thing around those conversations is to reach a shared understanding. So at the end of the day, it's all about asking those questions to get to a point where there's an understanding. So take the how do I choose a good car one. The first thing the salesperson would ask if I went into the dealership would be, do you have kids? Do you want to tow a boat? Do you want to compensate for being bald? Like all of these things start to bring it in to the salesperson and me getting to the point where we understand each other's requirements or conversation that we want to get to. So that's not search. It's all about getting to that shared understanding, and that's the key kind of component to it. The other element ends up being what do you want to call it, that you're getting to that one answer. So if you asked one of your colleagues where's the best coffee shop around here, would you expect them to give the list of the top 10 cafes in the area? No, you'd just be like, well, yeah, I usually go down to this place around the corner. And importantly, you would trust their recommendation from that side of things. So that's really where these conversations differ. So these conversational AIs in particular really should act like your colleague and not Google. You don't want to give tons of answers. You really want to try and give one, even if you need to clarify things with a few questions to get to that shared understanding and that correct answer. The one thing we also see is around these conversational experiences is it's more than words and more than AI. So while it's all about the experience and whatnot and the AI component that really comes into that, understanding that it's that blend of that whole experience that really is key. So it's really focusing on that entire sort of outcome. And importantly, spending a bit of time on this experience end to end is quite important. And the AI is just one element. So the best way to prepare for AI is to avoid artificial idiocy. If you just spend more time making sure it doesn't do something stupid, it'll actually look pretty smart. So it's really just about understanding that there are some very, very simple limitations to this AI at the end of the day. So that's me done. I'll start to bring in our panelists in just a second, but again, the QA is on the side if you would like to ask questions as you go along. And with that, I will bring in Sam at this point, and in the meantime, I'll try and get Brandon sorted. So thanks, Sam, for joining us.
Thanks for me.
That's okay. I guess the next kind of part of our experience is to kind of go through some of those questions. So if I just jump in with our thing for a second. So unfortunately, Shan's had to pull out at the last minute. He's unwell, so it's just going to be Brandon and Sam at this point. What I will try and do is figure out why Brandon's having some technical issues. So with that, what I'll do is I'll jump into Sam and she can talk to these points initially, and then Sam, I'll let you do the rest of your presentation if you'd like.
Thanks. All right. I have answered these questions, Brandon, as part of my presentation. So I will, if that's okay, to jump into sharing some slides. And I will do that now.
I'll just finish mine so you can share from there.
All right. So I assume everyone can see my screen okay? Great. So
I'll add it in. Yep.
Yeah.
Click the button. There you go.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Price, and I'm the Customer Experience Lead at Wyndham Council. So here today to talk about our chatbot and some of those questions that Mark had put up. I'm just going to address through a few slides I've put together. So talking about why a chatbot at Wyndham, our experiences implementing our chatbot and our biggest challenges and some things that worked really well for us. Things that worked really well, one of those is our triage passages. So I thought I would share a couple of examples of those. Talk about how we're going and what's going to happen next. So I'll try and go through these reasonably quickly and leave time to ask questions as well. Mark, if you can just alert me if I do have questions. I'm not quite sure where to see those. So, but I will be happy to answer questions as I go along. So
yeah, we'll do. I'll bring them in.
Thank you. All right, why a chatbot for us? So we really started to consider how we can improve our customer experience with our finite number of resources. So a challenge to most councils is increasing customer demands, increasing interactions, and not increasing the number of resources. So we looked at our live chat and we started to have a look at what people were asking. And the team also were telling us the same thing, that people are asking similar questions and there's lots of information and self-service options on the website. So we went on the path of investigating a chatbot with that in mind to handle more interactions with the same resources. And some other benefits came out of our investigation too. We thought, wow, we could provide service 24/7, where at the moment we only have someone on the end of the phone 8 to 5. We could really provide those consistent answers to common questions as well. And some things that were really key for us is integrating seamlessly with live chat. So when I talk about implementing our chatbot, we really didn't want to replace live chat and replace a person, but we wanted to add to that experience with a chatbot and also make it easy to get through to a person as part of that. So implementing our chatbot, we did obviously go with inGenious.AI and we investigated some other options. There's a few key steps I thought I would share for anyone that doesn't have a chatbot at the moment. And just to what's involved. It took us about, I think, 2.5 months from when we started talking and selected a chatbot to go live. And one of the really big benefits for us was we were given a set of questions from, I believe, from Brandon from his council to start with. So we weren't starting with a blank canvas, and that was really helpful. However, we did rewrite every single one of those to make it Wyndham. So we developed a writing style and a chatbot persona. And that's a really important part of a chatbot, making sure that you make it your own and it has the voice of wherever you're working, because chatbots can sound quite different, and having that style and having a guide to guide anyone coming in to write for the chatbot. So we went through and looked at what are our top requests, and we started creating content for those. So we went live with 200 passages of content, so sort of question answer content, and we had a plan to double that by the start of this year, which we've done. And I'll show you a little bit the impact on our accuracy rate as our content has increased. So we looked at defining business rules for how a chatbot would work for us. And I guess that leads from what Mark was talking about with making it a conversation, not Google. So we wanted to make it easy to speak to a person on live chat. We wanted to offer options. So we did want to encourage self-service, but still have live chat there. We wanted to provide links to the website, online payments, and we wanted to have an after hours mode that not only interacted with customers, but it also offered them to leave a message to be contacted back on their next business day. After we had developed all of that, we tested, integrated in with our Genesis Cloud live chat, trained our team, and went live on the 14th of October. Okay, sorry, next slide is not working. Why is that? Here we go. Implementing our chatbot. So biggest challenges for us were actually writing that content, but as I talked about, starting with the template, it did help, but it was a really big undertaking, and we had two of us working full time to get those 200 passages up and running, and investing time in reviewing our chatbot as well was a really big challenge. It took a lot more time than we'd anticipated. We initially, from our go live date, we were spending 2 days a week reviewing our chatbot. I think Mark said we were extremely diligent, but we were really committed to making sure that our customer experience wasn't compromised as part of us implementing an artificial intelligence technology. So we have improved that dramatically, that review, and we're now down to 5 hours every 2 weeks. So I think Mark has given us 4 hours a month is what we should be aiming for. So we're definitely on our way there. Most interesting part of implementing our chatbot has been around just learning about chatbots. We had no experience or understanding of chatbots at all. So really partnering with inGenious, questioning things, understanding them. And we've really enjoyed coming up with creative ways to triage customers and get them to help them with that funnel. So such as that Google car example that Mark was talking about, where they need to go. So I thought I'll just show a couple of those triage passages. So when you go to our website, there's a chat with us bubble down in the bottom corner, and that will start our chatbot. You always speak to our chatbot first. That's the way we've set it up, but you don't have to set it up that way. So that's one of those business decisions you need to make up front, but you can also review that and change that along the way. So from here, we wanted it to be really clear that they're talking to a chatbot. We still have a bit of a challenge that some people think they're talking to a person up front, but because of how it's set up, those people often get put through to a person pretty quickly. So when I talk about triage passages, these are customers asking things to the bot that could give many answers. So something like infringements, if someone just types in a word, and this is a customer being lazy and us helping them get to the right point. So if they type infringements or fines, we start with, what can I help you with your infringement? From there, we've developed what are the top things people want to ask about, and they can click on one of those, and that will start another passage, which could triage them again or give them the answer or the link there that they need. Another one is immunisations. So with COVID, but before COVID, immunisations would just mean MCH, maternal child health, and child immunisations, but now it could mean either. So this has been a really important one for us, clarifying what path to send people on before we give them something that's completely wrong. And my final example for triages is our bin passage. So I need new bins, something that people ask quite regularly. And we clarify with them first, is it a recently built property or an existing property? Customers can click on those options and it will start other passages. So for the existing property, then talks about, do you need a new bin because it's damaged, or is your bin missing, or are you actually needing a new bin and you mean as a customer an additional bin? So those kind of triage passages have been really fun to create and have also really improved our customer experience on the chatbot. We'll jump into how we're going. So if anyone has any questions yet, I haven't seen them, but happy to keep going. How we're going at the moment, this is our May month-to-date figures. So I just thought I'd share what it looks like and how many clicks we're getting. So we look at how many people click on the icon or the widget on the website. So for May month to date, we've had 1,200 people click on that. They could have clicked on it accidentally or had a look at what it was and closed it down. Of those people that have clicked on it, 62% of those have asked a question. So that's the 750 in that second column. And of those 750, we have live chat coming through to 398. So that is around 50% of those people that have asked a question of the chatbot have come through to live chat. Our target was 30%, so we've already exceeded what we were planning to do. We were hoping the chatbot could handle at least 30% of our interactions, and it's already exceeded that. Top kind of questions that people are asking our chatbot, and they having access to that information has been really valuable for us as well. So the top questions we have at the moment are copy of my rates notice or rates balance, bins not collected or wanting to order a different size bin, asking to speak to a person directly, so they can say person or agent and it'll go straight through to us. Maternal child health is another top one, and hard waste booking. This is my favourite graph at the moment. So we're really proud of how our accuracy is improved. So we started when we went live in October over about a 60% accuracy rate, which is the blue line there. And we're sitting around 85% now. And our target was 80%. So we've upped our target now, and we're trying to get to 90% accuracy, which we're going to continually work towards. The other red line there is our missing content. So I mentioned we started with 200 passages in the chatbot. It wasn't enough, and the more content you add in, the more likelihood that your bot is going to answer something that the customer has asked. So we have found we've hit some sweet spot here with when we've doubled that to 400. We've reduced our missing content based on what customers are asking to 1%. So, and we started at around 50% of the content missing. So, really, really great to see that. And that means our customers are having a pretty good experience most of the time with our chatbot. And when they're not, they're able to speak to someone on live chat. My final slide here is just what's happening next for us. So we'll continue focusing on reviewing and improving that accuracy on the chatbot. So as a new channel for us, we're not going to just let it run on its own. It's a continue. It's part of someone's role, and it's part of our knowledge content writer's role. And they're going to keep adding knowledge to that, keep staying up to date with current events at Wyndham, and also using a customer-led approach. So based on what customers are asking for the month, and what's missing based on their questions is what we're using now to drive any new content. And where to next after here is we will have a look at expanding it to other areas of the business, but that's only a new area for us to look at, so we don't have any solid plans there yet. That's all from me, Mark.
Well, thank you for that, Sam. That was actually really good. The one thing that I guess, given from our side of things, like Sam and the team at Wyndham have been probably the most recent one that have done it. There's been a bunch of stuff that we've done within the approach and the platform to really make it a lot easier. And I think there's a huge testament in that graph in the fact that, you know, it's answering the questions better, as well as you've got more coverage of the servicing side of things. All right, thank you for that. I've now got Brandon sorted, Sam, so I can bring him into the conversation now. So I'll swap things around and we can, wait, you're now working, Brandon, so just talk loud.
Okay. All right. Just hopefully everyone can hear it. I'll put the microphone nice and close. So what I wanted to say for this is that the technology that inGenious has worked on can be applied to anything. It's not really like, yes, councils will use it and we use it for different things, but everyone's got their own flavour and their own approach, and the adaptability of the solution is actually really useful because you can change it for what you need it to. Available technology that you can adapt now. So I just wanted to briefly touch on why we did the chatbot. So there's some customer reasons, which is always a good thing, but customers said to us they wanted to be able to contact us or ask questions of us at a time that suited them, not us. So the bot was really looking at that 24/7, 365 coverage, so that basic questions could be answered, but also assistance and navigation support on the website about how to find information. What we do know is that there has been an impact over time. So on the bottom right-hand side of the graph there, you can see in 2017, chat in a traditional sense, just live chat, was 3% of our volume and took 100% of those chats were dealt with by a person. In 2019, after we launched the bot, it doubled and went to 6% of the volume, but only 25% of the interactions that we had required human intervention. This year, it's at 9% of the total volume, but only 15% of the chats are requiring interaction by a person. So we've absorbed the volume over time and increased the volume of the channel, but also reduced the operational impact for us to conduct that business, which is really good. One of the things we have in our bot is the ability to leave messages. So if people do have a question out of hours and they do want to have someone get back to them, they can leave a message. It comes through to our team. We'll facilitate that, either respond or get the information to the person who can respond. We had an interesting time, and this is why one of the things I wanted to share is that this stuff doesn't happen. Yes, you can turn it on and run, but it does take time and it does take some different stages that you go through. And this was kind of our journey. So when we started first looking at the technology was back in May of 2018. We made the decision in September after talking to a number of different companies, including inGenious. The build started in October. We went live on the 10th of December with 50 questions and 50 answers. So we wanted to turn it on and see how it worked. After that period of turning it on and developing content for questions customers asked us we didn't have an answer to, we spent a few months doing that work and building that quickly over time. And from then on, it's really been about refining, developing and tweaking the existing content to try and satisfy customers with answers to questions that they reached out to us for. Then COVID hit, and then the volume of chats did go up because people were asking questions and our phones were incredibly busy. So another way to contact council was to go through the bot and chat. So that definitely had an impact over time. now we're out of that process. We're now starting to look forward about what's next. And one of the things that we've talked about is kind of integrating the bot into your CRM channels, so that from a customer doing a request point of view, say I've got a missed bin, I could get on the website, open up the chat and go, my bin's missed, and the bot will go, what's your address? They'll validate the address against our NAR directory, and then they'll say what bin was missed, and they go to the red lid, and they hit bang, and then it will go through the system and create a request that then fires over to the waste collection team. So within about 30 seconds, it'll be in the truck. So that's where we want to look. We want to speed up the turnaround time, but starting to use that channel as almost a faster response time than ringing up and going through that process over the phone. Metrics and performance, which is one of my favourite topics. We've been running the bot for over 3 years. So now what does the data really tell us? How have we gone with it? So we know that 80% plus of our customers using the channel get an answer without having to talk to someone, which was one of the intentions. We know that we have 400 plus, probably closer to 500 intentional conversations that have been built into the bot. So its ability to handle different types of questions, and councils have a broad range of services. So we could get questions about childcare, about dog off leash parks, about bins on a beach, or even parking issues or whatever. So we need the bot to be able to recognise that and be able to handle those conversations. Current performance gives us around 15,000 interactions per year, supported by 0.2 of an FTE. So we've got volume and we can handle volumes of interactions, but we're not having a resource drain as far as the front line, and that is very effective for us in handling those conversations. We know that over 60,000 questions have been answered by Siebes, and Siebes is the name the team gave to the bot since we went live. And we also know that around 4,000 conversations with humans were requested by customers over the last 3 years. So as a percentage, that's really low. That's like 8%, testing my maths around that. And that just demonstrates to us that the content actually works and that people are actually using the bot and it's delivering what the intention was. Some things that we learned along the way is that customers ask really weird questions, and they sometimes come to us with an essay and the bot just goes, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you rephrase that in fewer words? And then we can kind of get to the point. The content needs to be developed agile. You really need to be involved in it and see when things are not working so that you can jump in and add content, because there are impacts of things that are happening from a PR point of view or a locality point of view or an issue management point of view, where you need to get content quickly into the bot, and we can turn that around very quickly. That a bit of a personality is good for a bot. You can have the kind of vanilla conversation and you can have those kind of interactions, but a bot with a little bit of personality is good. There's puns all through the content. There was when Damien was doing a lot of the content, he sort of picked up from where Mark started, and there's puns everywhere through it. So it definitely does have a bit of a sense of humour. We also know that when we track the amount of negative responses from customers, and we know that's very low. We get more thank yous than we get negative comments, which is another indicator for us that it's working. For simple questions, it works really well, but it's also being clever about going, well, when there's something that we can't handle with that, we need to direct them to talk to someone or another way to interact with us to get an answer to that. The bot's really good for those simple transactional questions, but and needs to be built accordingly. And what we're finding is that there are more and more applications for this technology across the business. So one of the ones that we're talking about now is the guys that are on the help desk in council get a lot of phone calls, but they'll ask the standard questions. Have you turned the monitor on? Have you rebooted the computer? Whatever it is. So we can actually put a bot in Teams and then run that sort of QA process for the help desk via a bot. So it means that the job will go into their request system and those basic questions are answered, and they can focus on fixing rather than necessarily just dealing with phone calls that could be resolved through some simple sort of Q&A. The challenges for us are around content management. You need resourcing to do that. Currently, the content management on the bot is a shared role. So it's kind of we have someone who looks after our knowledge management system for customer care and for the organisation, but they also look after the content for the bot. So we've combined those two things together, and that works really well. So if they're writing content for the knowledge management thing, you can look across at the bot and go, do we need some content around this? Is this something that's relevant or something that we think we're going to get some conversations on? The marking of conversations is a good exercise. Sometimes it can feel a little bit like a big task to go through, but it's actually really useful and really helpful for identifying gaps in your content, but also identifying where you maybe need to tweak some phrases or some of the NLP in order to make the bot work effectively. The website changes can drive different questions, so it's really good to partner with your comms team and know what they're doing around the website so that you can reflect that and you can make sure that you're covering those bases. And there's a lot of seasonality with content. Like we'll get questions around fireworks on New Year's Eve, but we don't really get that many other times throughout the year. Future roadmap for us is talked a little bit before about straight through processing. We want to update our chat client. Currently, the chat client we use is a little bit clunky, so we're moving across to Zendesk. That's a little bit more intuitive and a better kind of setup, but we also want to fold in our other digital channels like mail and social media and stuff so that we can have some metrics and data around that. We're really looking for opportunities to play with the technology internally, which is quite a safe process, but looking for simple requests. I think Sam talked about, I think it was childcare or kindergarten registrations. Anything that's that sort of Q&A process works really well. And we're looking at replacing our telephony platform. So we really want to have the comms channels integrated so we can see the gamut of customer interactions across the different channels and start to do that stuff. So we need to look at developing some of our other technology so we can kind of leverage the things that we find and the insights that we can gain from looking at customer interactions. That's it for my 10 minutes of fame. So I'll hand back over to Mark if there's any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. That was really good. So what I'll do now, Shan's been able to actually join us. So what I'll end up doing is sticking us all on the screen. And where's me? Shan, Brandon, Sam. Oh, okay, cool. So I just have to do this. Where'd you go?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, excellent. Yep.
Now, why is Brandon the big guy? Oh, because it thinks it's presenting. That's okay.
Yeah, and look, I'll be really quick. Like pretty much what you guys have both covered is the very similar story at Parramatta Council. Just a couple of things I think that were a little bit different, so I'll just go through those. So it'll probably take a few minutes only. And sorry, I just stepped out of a course. I didn't get your email, and I was just I put my out of office on. So yes, apologies about that. But yeah. So just briefly, like exactly what Sam and oh man, my brain's gone blank. Brandon was talking about. We have the exact same pretty much process. I think the only difference for us, we started in COVID when it was for us really quiet on the phones, and so one benefit was we actually got to use a lot of our call center resources. So we got like 4 call center guys on, and straight away we just smashed out the content. So I think initially we started with like 400 or 500 passages, and now we're up to 800 passages. But you know, it works fantastic. Like in terms of our high volume waste calls that come to the chatbot just does a perfect job of just resolving those. Another thing we just implemented not that long ago was Facebook Messenger integration. So our social media team just approached us to see if anything was possible for it to grab just people just messaging through Facebook, and that has been quite a success as well. It's only been like a few months, but we've had really good feedback from it. The team's happy about it, and like Brandon was saying, our next step for us, we're looking, we're waiting to hope to get that full integration with our core system pathway, like that. For example, that waste process would be be fantastic. But I guess again, we have a more of a sort of dedicated team where we have like the guys that have a shift of a full 2 days of like Chatbot with marketing and content. And I've found that like just having someone really close to the customer really helps strengthen like all the info that goes into Chatbot. And also we're just now starting to pair them up with our info hub knowledge guys for us on the ground that know the content best, that we found like just a huge benefit. And in terms of marketing, same sort of thing. We try and keep it to that one voice and try to have one marker, but we're always trying up a few new things. Like we've actually lost one person now. We're going to look at changing the whole marketing process. So yeah, in a nutshell, like that's us at the moment, but very, very similar to both other councils as well. And yeah, again, we get about 1,800 questions answered. So, you know, overall, the overall organization is very happy with it, and we're looking to expand in all different areas. But that's it from me. Sorry, I'm doing this from a car park.
Oh, good. Thanks for that, Chan. All right, we do have a couple of questions, but for anybody else on the stream, if you do have any other questions, obviously just punch them in on the side. Cool. This is the first one. Do you have any trolls on the bot? If so, how do you deal with them? So, who wants to go first on that one? Because I know you've all had experience on it.
You know, this was actually hilarious. Like, so we did have a troll. Like, it's so random. So this person was just coming on the bot saying, I don't know, someone's a pedophile, and they were dropping like a full name. But the funny thing, and this was pure random, like the name was actually my friend's kid. And so I messaged him thinking he'd mess around with my bot. But it was actually pure random. It was from the school, and he was messing around with the bot. So we immediately just blocked it. But just for a bit of fun, I said, you know, police have been called, and, you know, schools, and they're going to be expelled and all that. But it does happen a lot. Like, people just test the bot or like to play with it. For us, I think we just use the casual and kind of ignore it. But I'd say it's fairly low still for us, like, you know.
Cool. Brandon or Sam, do you have anything on that one?
Oh, we've had a lot of trolls. Some of those trolls have decided that they want to use it as a platform to have a go at something council does. We've had primary schools or high schools where kids have been told to go and play with maybe the local council website, and they found the chatbot, and we've had a lot of primary school humour coming through. And we've also had people from other councils. We can see when they come and play with the bot because the questions they ask are totally unrelated, and they're just asking lots of different things around services to see how it's responding. They're not really trolls, but we don't block them. But you can really see the difference in the kind of interactions that are happening. Probably one of the interesting ones was someone actually threatened to burn down one of the council buildings. And we managed to sort of get some information from them and trace them. And then we handed it over to the police, but it was someone who was just obviously maybe hadn't taken all of their medication. So it wasn't much of a drama, but it's definitely been interesting. We have some characters who use the channel, absolutely.
I'll just jump in with how we're dealing with trolls at the moment. So we've just developed with Mark a way to hand, when we identify we're dealing with someone that's just asking silly things and you know they're not a real customer, we're going to have a troll hand back to the bot process, and it will look like they're still live, but the bot will just go dead and we can take them off. So they'll be out of our live chat queue, because that was one of the most challenging things, taking up our resources when we've only got one person on web chat. We really don't want a troll there taking up that person's time. So we're going to identify they're a troll and hand them back to the bot.
Yeah, I think the main thing there is obviously the bot can handle all the initial conversations, but if the troll's really being an arsehole, they can get through the live chat, and that's obviously when there's a real impact on the business and other bits and pieces, especially the person that has to deal with the douchebag. Okay, next question is, how do you manage your seasonal content? So the Christmas stuff that comes in and all the other bits and pieces.
Yeah, we have for us the seasonal content. You can pause the content, so you can have it sitting there. So one of the things Kingston does is a Christmas tree collection service that's free in January, and we get a lot of questions about that process, and we'll direct them to the booking site. But outside of that, we don't want it really popping up when it shouldn't. So we disable it, and so the content will sit there, it just won't be active, and then we can activate it when the season comes around again.
We're using a spreadsheet at the moment because we haven't had a full year, so we're the same way that that you are, Brandon, will activate or deactivate. Sometimes we'll choose to leave some seasonal things just active because they're someone might ask about an event that's passed, but we've decided to leave it active because it's still relevant even though it's in the past. So but we're taking a similar approach of specific content, and we think and plan about that for the year ahead.
Cool. All right. Do have there's still one. So again, if there's any questions, click it through. This one's Brandon. So you mentioned your block trolls. How do you do that? I'll start by saying each of the live chat platforms has their own way of dealing with that. So as an example, Sam uses Genesis. There's some quirks with that platform versus some of the way that the other platforms work. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind, as it's not a universal, implementation. There are ways that we can do that, and there are ways that the live chat platforms can kind of do that. But Brandon, do you want to add anything to that?
It's a lot of, like, everyone's got a slightly different ecosystem and way that they hook their technology together. I think that the original chat client that we use is a little product called Crisp Chat, and that was good for the start, but our needs have kind of evolved as well. And it's not just how we handle trolls and how we handle people that we don't want to be talking to, but how we handle the data and how we handle the information has also changed. And I think everything you're going to get we've had idiosyncrasies trying to get Zendesk working properly, because Zendesk doesn't always, they can make it difficult, I think, Mark, would be fair to say. But the delivery of the product at the end is actually a more streamlined, smoother process, and that's what we're aiming for. We don't want to have the heavy human involvement. We want to have the bot handling as much of the content as possible. And you're going to get little things along the way that test you and challenge you, but if you just keep focused on the delivery of what you're trying to aim for, you can get around most of the other obstacles.
Cool. So have we got any others left? Oh, okay, yeah, there is. Let me dump this in, hang on. Yeah, okay, this one's an interesting one, actually. So this one is, so content that has pricing or dates that need to be updated or changed, how do you manage those to ensure they're updated? So just keeping the content current, I guess, as things change.
The simple way we tried to do it was we don't really want any prices and stuff in the bot. So what we'll do is direct them to the website where the prices are, so that we can not have to update that content for the bot, and we really rely on the website being the source of truth.
So Sam,
we've taken a slightly different approach. We don't want to always send customers to the website, or we've made a decision not to do that. Things like that are common, such as additional or upsize bins, we do have those pricing in the bot, but so we keep a track of what we do have, but we try and keep it minimal. But as part, we have a dedicated resource that's responsible for updating our staff knowledge and our chatbot. So their role is to make sure that that's kept up to date. And if something changes on the website, we change it on our knowledge and we change it on the chatbot.
Yeah, we actually see both customers doing both to balance it, because there'll be, as an example, the I don't know, there's a fee that doesn't change often, is probably the best way to put it, where there's others that change fairly often based on like a yearly review or something along those lines. So it's just finding the balance between it, because as Sam said, always flicking them to the website is a bit of a try not to make the bot a signpost for doing this, just flicking people to the other bits and pieces, but find that balance, because sometimes you know, there's nuances to it all, and you don't want to pull all that content in a little chat window because it becomes too painful to read through and things like that. So it's really just thinking about the customer experience at the end of the day that you're trying to create, and then obviously tweaking it all to align to that. So yeah, let's double check. Yeah, cool. That's the last one of the questions. We're almost out of time. I think we've done all right. The one thing I probably wanted to add was, what's your business like internally? Like, how's it been perceived? The initial, you know, like, hey, we want to do a bot type thing. Like, what internally sort of started there, and the perceptions and all the other bits and pieces. So Sam, I'll start with you. So.
Yeah, the business and executive were really excited to have a chatbot. I think it was one of the things people wanted, but I don't think there was necessarily a communication on why they wanted it, but everyone was excited about it. So, and I do have other people in the business reaching out now wanting to know how to be part of the bot, so which is great. So there's people that are becoming more curious. Kindergartens was one of them. So they're one of the teams we'll look at first on how can we bring this out of customer service and work with more parts of the business. But yeah, generally excited, and I'm sure we'll find people that don't know we have a bot still, but that's just more communication about it as well.
Yeah. Brandon, what did you find?
Yeah, we had I think when we went live, we had a CEO that just really wanted it, and so we kind of bypassed a lot of the traditional ways of doing this kind of stuff, which was really good because it enabled to get in quickly, and then he was telling everyone about it. So that was our kind of internal PR. It was really good. But I think now it's an established part of the content. Every induction group that goes through as far as recruitment, one of the things they do is come down to the contact center, and they get introduced to the bot and the guys in the call center, and they also do some call listening, but they also do some peeking over the shoulder at the digital stuff. So we've really tried to make it part of an awareness campaign more than anything else, and from that awareness we'll generate questions and explore ideas around how we can use the technology differently.
Yeah, look, I think that's the fun part is getting the rest of the business on board and understanding just how the perceptions are always, you know, from one extreme to the other. Like, this thing's going to solve all my problems because it's AI. But yeah, not really. It's just fancy pattern matching, you know. There's a funny image that I sometimes use when I talk about this stuff is they've got like Google's Vision AI, for example. So there's a picture of a Granny Smith apple, and it's like, yeah, I'm 97% confident that this is a Granny Smith apple. And then someone's just shoved a bit of a sticker on it that says iPod, and then the AI is like, yeah, I'm like 90% confident that this is an iPod. You're like, not really. It just has the text iPod on it, you know. So again, it's all about the training data and all the other bits and pieces. So that the AI really isn't smart. It's just really good at understanding patterns, and I think that's the main thing we kind of need to stress to, you know, clients like you, but importantly the rest of the business when they find issues and other bits and pieces. But no, that's cool. All right. Well, I'm conscious of time. I'll firstly say a very big thank you to Brandon and Sam, and Chance had to jump off early, but this has been really interesting. I hope it's been helpful for everybody that's sort of joined along. I will just close out a little bit. So I'll just remove Sam and that so I can add me back in from a presentation point of view. I'll stop screen for a second. All right, sweet. Okay. The one thing I kind of wanted to stress before we leave is, you know, humans aren't going to change the way we communicate anytime soon. So it's up to us to create conversational experiences which adapt to people and not the other way around. The main one I wanted to sort of do is get some feedback. So I'll just kick off the poll so we can kind of get that going. And just say, I guess, any understanding of what you would like to hear from next and things like that. So if you, again, jump into the side, you can give us some feedback and other bits and pieces about what you would like to see next. And please, it can be anything council related from the customer service. This definitely isn't just a bot thing or a live chat thing. So yeah, just click it in there and we'll have a chat with the team. Further to that, again, if you would like to be a part of this, like, please feel free to reach out and we can kind of bring you into the loop and go from there. We're tentatively sort of got this booked in for July the 13th, so we're probably going to do this bi-monthly, just to keep it lightweight and not too stressful on the poor speakers and whatever else that we need to bring in to do this. But yeah, and with that, that's kind of all we have today. So if you have any questions and whatnot, like, feel free to reach out and we can kind of go from there. All right. Well, thank you everyone again, and yeah, thanks, and we'll see you again hopefully in a month's time or a month and a bit's time. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
See ya.